Hello, I'm Patriot Paul, and welcome to Steel and Stripes, the first episode of Steel and Stripes. Today we're going into the South Pacific, where a lieutenant from the U.S. Navy fought alongside guerrillas in the Philippines during World War II, fighting off the Japanese, and then eventually being promoted to a major in the U.S. Army, holding both ranks at the same time. We're going to test fire, shoot, and demo the weapon that he created, inspired by the Filipino guerrillas when he came stateside, and why it was a success and why it was a failure. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, America quickly found itself at war in the Pacific, but that wasn't the only place where America had already begun to fight. In the Philippines, multiple American units fought alongside Filipino forces to hold off the Japanese. Ensign Richardson of the USS Bitterton was one of those Americans that fought on with limited support from the States against the Japanese as they began an all-out conquest attempt at throwing off any forces that were in their way within the Pacific. Richardson was second in command of a PT boat under Bob Calley. They used their small maneuvering crafts to attack Japanese ships, to include the Japanese cruiser Kuma. His boat was strafed by Japanese aircraft, setting it on fire and destroying it. Being beached, he joined the beleaguered U.S. Army units and helped set off demolition charges in Cebu City. Following the capture of the American headquarters, Richardson headed to Leyte, where he met with Colonel Kamel. Learning that the Japanese had already captured Del Monte Airfield, the colonel gave him 2,000 Filipino pesos, and Richardson, as well as 11 men, purchased a single-masted, locally made sailing ship. With no clear evacuation in sight as the Philippines began to fall, they attempted to sail this ship, which was no more than an outrigger canoe, to Australia. After traveling 200 miles along the Filipino coast, avoiding Japanese ships, a monsoon hit in the early part of the summer, sinking this craft, and Richardson, with a handful of survivors, swam the 8 miles and 19 hours to shore, where his men were rescued by Filipino fishermen and taken to their village to be given shelter from the Japanese. They spent that summer hiding and attempting to make contact with American holdouts. In early September, he joined a band of guerrillas that aggressively resisted the Japanese at any and all opportunity on the island of Leyte, using local infrastructure. With his experience as a ham radio operator, Richardson managed to help set up a network of communication that even managed to get information of Japanese ship, submarine, and troop movements to American forces, even in preparation for the Battle of Leyte. Richardson's group of guerrillas became so effective and so feared by the Japanese that they wouldn't even venture far from the shore and their bases, as fear of being swallowed up by the Americans and Filipinos vengeful hiding out in the jungle. In 1944, during the Battle of Leyte, Richardson was picked up by a U.S. destroyer and then brought to the USS Nashville, where he met General Douglas MacArthur as well as General Kenny. MacArthur promoted him to Major of the United States Army Intelligence, where he simultaneously held the rank of Army Major and Navy Ensign, also being the only known individual to hold medals in both the Army and the Navy at this time. The military, though, in its infinite wisdom, managed to screw that up, where Richardson was ended up being brought up on court-martial charges because he was believed that he was being paid in 2 service branches at the same time, and also while at one point being believed to have been killed in action. After a small court-martial hearing, it was cleared up very quickly. But now that you've seen how thick the jungle is in these videos, and mind you, these are very, very old, grainy footage from the humid climate of the Philippines. Now that you see what this looked like, let's talk about the weapons that they were using. The Filipinos had a way of developing basically crude pipe shotguns, and they were quite common even after being, supplied with U.S. weapons. They were pretty common to still be used as they were effective in the jungle, especially using buckshot out of shotguns. Imagine moving down a trail like this, but you can't see what's in front of you or behind you due to foliage. If you were surrounded by people at this point, you would never see it coming. Even up here in the back, it's difficult to see me. Imagine if the leaves are on the trees. Using a weapon like this is similar to the Liberator pistol. It's a weapon that can be used very simply, that anyone can be taught, a point-and-shoot weapon to be used at point-blank range. I can't even imagine what Richardson and his men went through out in the jungles having to use weapons such as these. Even quietly patrolling as silently as possible with the rains falling around you. Moving through the jungle where you could barely see. At point-blank range, a 12 gauge is going to do something to you. In the jungle, you could easily get this close to a person ambushed. Imagine what a 12 gauge could do at point blank range, even at leg height. Now, a 12 gauge was powerful to use in the jungle, but that wasn't the only weapon out there. Now we're going to show you guys the shooting of other weapons from that time period that were out in the jungle and potentially used against the Japanese, so you can get an idea of what the damage that these weapon systems can do. So we're going to bring out an M1 Garand, a Mark IV Enfield, and a Mosin Nagant to show you guys what that can do. Found it. I found the point of aim.
Where are you aiming?
Off it to the bottom left. All right, well, 303 Brit is not something to be trifled with. So I was aiming about here, and that's where we're hitting. But Jesus, that leaves a little bit of a dent, wouldn't you say? I was over here, yeah.
Oh my god.
You're just digging a hole.
So the reason why I can't hit anything is because your gun's not properly sighted.
Okay, yeah, Mr. AR that you gotta aim freaking 3 mils to the left and down. What are you looking for, one of the rounds? Now we're bringing out a Russian Mosin in 7.62 by 54R. Same era as what we're gonna be shooting later on. He's gonna shoot at the same target, and we're gonna see if he actually hits it, so. Damn, at least you're accurate in the same spot. There you go.
Look at that. I found my aiming point, gentlemen.
All right, let's see what kind of dent it left. All right, that actually left a dimple. Huh. That is, okay, that's got some heat on it, yeah, to say the least. Okay. While we're out here, this video is sponsored by Morale Wear. Go and buy one of my t-shirts. It's the only thing that even pays the bills for this stuff. Currently, I'm still very small on YouTube, so if you guys like the videos that I'm doing here, give it a share. That's it. That's the only ad I've got.
Well, you can't hear anything. I'm feeling John Basilone just come down. I told you.
Now we go to the Richardson Guerilla gun. Mind you, we don't have the actual thing that would have been used in the Philippines, but we do have the gun that Richardson designed and sold when he came back to the United States. So here you have it, the moment you've all been waiting for, the clickbait of this video. Original weapon, and we have also managed to source some original paper 12 gauge from that era. So it is as simple as loading that in there, and then just... Whoa! I don't know how that gun would have been considered safe for civilian use, or yeah, here, Jacob, you can bring the pieces over here. I don't know how that would have been safe, but there's the shell. There's that.
You got the stock
with
the back.
Step into the camera.
Oh, no, man.
Yeah, and then you just got it. I mean, I'm a little blackened, but I'm not hurt, so yeah, that was a little sketchy. Well, here you have it, the Richardson's Guerilla gun. It is not original. I found that out in my research. As you can see in the back here, this is what the original ones looked like. After that happened, and I got to see what this looked like from the inside, it was the most clean weapons takedown I've ever experienced in my life. But once that happened, I got to see the inside and the grain of the wood, and I determined that this is not the original stock that was put on it. It is more than likely that something very similar happened to the previous owner of this, and he carved a stock. And then when I looked more at the wood, I realized, okay, it's kind of rough, and, you know, it's more of like a floor stain, a wood stain. than you'd normally experience with something like this. So I think it's safe to say that this stock probably isn't original. But the mechanisms of this firearm, if you could call it that, are actually quite simple. So right here is your safety or your barrel set, whatever you want to call it. It's literally just a threaded hole with a spindle and a knob on it. You remove your barrel and you put your 12 gauge shot right there, your 12 gauge round, and then you place it back in the barrel. And then to fire this, which also let me just show, it is clear. To fire this, all you do is line up your shot, bang, that's it. There's a firing pin down at the bottom if you want to even call it that. But yeah. Richardson tried to use his fame when he came home from the war to try to make these firearms basically household names and household guns as, you know, a little bit of a niche special interest, a gun with a story, and they really didn't go over all that well. There were multiple models made, some with triggers, some without, some with foregrips, some without, but really they didn't sell all that well, and the production stopped pretty quickly. If you guys like this video, hit the subscribe button. Next week we're going to Camp Shank, the largest demarcation point on the eastern seaboard for people going to Europe. I'm very excited for that video. We shot it. I think with a little bit of glue and tape, it could be shot again.
So well done.
We found the back of it. The firing pin, if you can call it that, wasn't even attached to the barrel, so I could see why there may have been a small malfunction. But yeah, I think if I was in the jungles of Burma,
You'd be dead.
Listen, it shoots at least once.
I mean, they
Guarantee.
probably use that to kill somebody to get a better gun. That's probably the idea behind that.
I mean, maybe, but still, I would still, I mean, personally, I'm picking probably the M1. I don't know about you guys. What are you guys picking?
M1, Mosin.
You're taking the
I'm
Mosin?
taking the Mosin.
Rob?
I'm a sucker for this. So.
Okay. All right.
Shot it, but it's cool, though.
Well, I hope you guys found this interesting. I hope you enjoyed the first episode, and I can't wait for there to be the next one. You guys need to help me name this series, though, because I still haven't come up with a decent name for it. Hopefully there'll be a name by the time the video comes out. But, all right.